Although food prices are dropping in global markets, the same cannot be said for household dining tables. Here is what you need to know. A restaurant located on the outskirts of Nairobi has adopted an unscrupulous measure of using smaller chapatis, the famous Kenyan flatbread, to reduce the usage of cooking oil. As a result of their financial constraints, Pakistanis are forced to give up on meat and switch to vegetarian diets. Meanwhile, a cafe in Hungary has resorted to removing burgers and fries from their menu to avoid the high cost of beef and oil. Despite a steady decline in global markets, food prices around the world remain persistently high and perplexing. From record highs, the prices of agricultural commodities such as grains, vegetable oil and dairy have fallen. However, the relief has yet to trickle down to the real world where shopkeepers, street vendors and families are still struggling to make ends meet. I'm afraid we cannot take lunch and dinner on most days as we still have to pay the rent and school fees, stated Lina Muni, a mother of 4 from Kenya. According to her, the amount she earns in a day from selling vegetables at a kiosk is half the price of a 2-kilogram, 4.4-pound packet of corn flour. The cost of sustenance had already surged before Russia's hostile takeover of Ukraine in February last year. Following the disruption of grain and fertilizer trade, food prices skyrocketed even further. However, on a worldwide level, this price hike has long been resolved. According to the United Nations, food prices have been on a steady decline for the past year. This is attributed to successful harvests in countries like Brazil and Russia, as well as a tentative peace agreement that allows grain shipments out of the Black Sea. The price index for food, released by the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, has dropped since the time of the Russian military invasion in Ukraine. Despite limited options, people are being forced to pay exorbitant prices for food, which continue to rise. This is adding to the already high inflation rates, which are felt not only in developed countries like the United States and Europe, but also in struggling nations across the developing world. Ian Mitchell, who works as an economist and serves as the co-director of the Europe programme at the Centre for Global Development in London, emphasised the interconnectivity of food markets. As per his statement, it's a global phenomenon where any rise in global prices affects the food markets worldwide. What makes food price inflation so stubborn, if not in the global commodity markets, then in the pockets of everyday people who shop at bazaars, grocery stores, and sit at their kitchen tables around the world? According to Joseph Glauber, the ex-head economist at the United States Department of Agriculture, it's not just oranges, wheat, or livestock whose prices are affected. These are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to agricultural products. A recent statement claims that in the US, food prices rose by 8.5% in the past month compared to the previous year. The statement further notes that 75% of the overall costs incurred after the produce leaves the farm are associated with energy, processing, transportation, and labor expenses. Core inflation, a measure that disregards unstable food and energy prices, is plagued by intractable costs. The global economy struggles to mitigate these expenses. The European Union and United Kingdom witnessed a surge in food prices, rising 19.5% and 19.2% respectively within a year. This marks the most significant growth in almost 46 years. Glauber predicts that food inflation will eventually subside, albeit at a sluggish pace due to the persistence of other high-contributing factors. The food industry has seen a reduction in competition over the years, with a wave of mergers being blamed by some, including US President Joe Biden. Critics have pointed out that the US beef, pork, and poultry markets are heavily centralized, with only 4 companies controlling the majority of each market. The White House expressed concern over this last year, citing that these companies have the ability to manipulate prices due to their dominant market share. Specifically, these 4 meatpacking firms control 85% of the beef market, 70% of the pork market, and 54% of the poultry market. Despite the persistent high food prices, Glauber, who is currently serving as a senior research fellow at the International Food Policy Research Institute, doesn't necessarily attribute the blame to the consolidation of agribusiness. While acknowledging the ability of large agribusinesses to earn substantial profits during periods of price hikes, The speaker notes that such prosperity is often short-lived. Inevitably, economic conditions tend to balance out, leading to a decline in profits during leaner times. As per his statement, the current inflation can be attributed to several market factors and fundamentals, rather than just a few meat producers. He believes that it would be inaccurate to solely blame a small group for the price hikes. According to him, beyond the borders of the United States, an elevated dollar value results in elevated prices. Unlike previous episodes of food price inflation, such as the one experienced in 2007 to 2008, the strength of the dollar was not a significant factor. Glauber commented that in the current scenario, the dollar's strength and appreciation have been noteworthy. Corn and wheat prices are usually denoted in dollars per ton, which means that the local currency doesn't reflect the decline in commodity markets or the UN Food Price Index. This is due to the strong value of the dollar. The effect of war in Ukraine coupled with drought in Kenya has caused food shortages and an increase in prices. Unfortunately, the costs have remained high and persistent since then. Corn flour is an essential ingredient in Kenyan households, used to prepare the popular cornmeal called ugali. Unfortunately, its price has surged by 100% in the past year. During the 2022 election, President William Ruto stopped the subsidies to lower the impact of the surging prices on the consumers. However, he has vowed to reduce the costs of corn flour despite the halt in subsidies. Last year, Kenyan millers acquired wheat at a premium during a time of high global prices. Additionally, they have been grappling with elevated production costs, stemming from increased fuel expenses. As a result, Kenyan eateries such as Mark Kioko's have been forced to increase their prices and occasionally reduce the serving sizes to cope. Due to the high prices of cooking oil, we were unable to maintain our profits even after increasing the cost of our chapatis. As a result, we had to downsize them, Kiyoko explains. As of March, Hungary has experienced the most significant increase in food prices throughout the EU, surging to an alarming 45%. The people of Hungary are struggling to manage the escalating costs. Café Chiga, situated in central Budapest, has had to increase its prices by roughly 30% to cope with the soaring expenses of ingredients. According to Andras Kellerman, the general manager of the restaurant, their chef keeps a close eye on ingredient prices each day, ensuring strict control over kitchen procurement. In a bold move, the cafe has gone so far as to remove burgers and French fries from their menu. In Hungary's Grand Market Hall, József Varga purveys fresh produce to his patrons. However, in recent times, his wholesale expenditure has surged by 20% to 30%. The inflated cost is evident to all his clients, but some are affected more than others. According to him, those with deeper pockets tend to make more purchases, while those with tighter budgets buy less. This economic disparity is palpable in people's complaints about the increasing cost of goods. Muhammad Ali, a shop owner in Pakistan, has noticed a shift in some customers' preferences as they opt for meatless diets, substituting with vegetables and beans. However, the cost of these alternative products, such as vegetables, beans, rice and wheat, have significantly increased, rising up to 50%. Zubaida Bibi, a 45-year-old widow, resides in a mud brick house outside the capital of Islamabad. Our existence was always a struggle, she laments, but the current soaring prices have made it even harder to survive. During the Islamic holy month of Ramadan, Bibi stood in a lengthy queue to acquire free wheat from Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif's administration. As a domestic worker, Bibi only earns a meager 8,000 Pakistani rupees, $30 per month. Numerous necessities are required, but we are unable to afford food for our children, she expressed. To make ends meet, she relies on her younger brother Sher Khan for financial support. However, Sher Khan's roadside tea stall is under threat of closure due to the mounting fuel expenses. According to him, his budget has been severely impacted by the rising inflation rates. He stated that his income has decreased while his expenses have increased, leaving him in a precarious financial position.